And hello, everyone, and welcome to Chuck Bushbeck Live. And we are honored and privileged to bring you the Heart of a Champion show from those individuals and groups that clearly make a difference in our life. I am your host, Chuck Bushbeck, with my producer, Joe Lee. We have a great guest for you today in Bill Schoening from the San Antonio Spurs, broadcaster. But first, I want to welcome my co-host, Bella DiSilvestro. Bella, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Did you have an appointment that you were running from today to get here?
Yes. I was running all morning, but I'm finally settled.
But you're okay?
Be here. Totally fine. Better than ever.
All right. Well, that sounds good. So anyway, my guest today is Bill Schoening, and we've spoken with Bill before. He is the I don't know if it's play-by-play or the broadcaster for the San Antonio Spurs since 2001. He's also a four-time winner of the Associated Press Texas Top Play-by-Play Award and 2014 Texas Sports Writer of the Year from the National Sportsman. What is that? Sports Writers Association. I'm sorry, Bill. Well, Bill, welcome to the show, and I'm glad we got our technical difficulties straightened out.
Thank you very much. It's the worst thing for a radio guy to have technical problems.
What's going on with that, Bill? Come on.
I'm still learning this new technology. I should be on top of it, but I'm not. And of course, we're doing a lot of our games remotely since COVID. So we're not even traveling this year, the broadcasters for the Spurs anyway. So we're doing a lot of stuff by Zoom, a lot of broadcasts remotely, which means we're basically calling the game off a television set. So wow. I'm ready to hit the fast forward button and get all this behind us, to be honest with you, because I miss the personal interaction with players and coaches.
Yeah.
And we just don't have that right now, you know?
And there's a lot of organizations doing the same thing you guys are, right? They're not going to the live events that are away, and they're maybe just doing the home games?
Yeah, it's just precaution right now. You know, I think eventually we'll start traveling again. Some teams are traveling, some aren't, the broadcasters. So hopefully we'll get back into doing this very soon. And But, you know, the season's underway and we're kicking. We've already played 5 preseason games and 12 regular season games. So we're underway and going.
Are they letting you interview players up close, or is that taboo?
No, everything's by Zoom. Everything's by Zoom right now. And there's a disconnect, you know, to be honest with you, Chuck, because it's just not the same as being able to sit down and talk to a guy for a few minutes and get his story, you know. So we've got a lot of young players, too. So I'm looking forward to the day where I can sit down and talk to a player and talk to a coach again.
Well, before we get into the Spurs a little bit more in the NBA, and as you know, we're filming out of Philadelphia in our Sixers. But Bill, this is called the Heart of a Champion for a reason, because there are certain people in our lives that have done certain things that we look at and say, wow, you know, that's an incredible feat. How did you learn how to do that? When did you do that? So if you don't mind, I'd like to take you back to your past a little bit. Can you give us an idea where you grew up at, and what was life like for Bill Schoening growing up? Just give us a teaser of where you're from and you know, that type of thing.
See, Chuck, I got a big smile on my face because you brought up my childhood. I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in the inner city in Southwest Philly, real close to a playground called Finnegan Playground, which really kind of defined my early years because I was so close to that playground that had tennis courts and basketball courts and football fields and baseball fields that I just basically grew up in the playground playing sports. So that pretty much fashioned the way I wanted to go the rest of my life. I was 10 years old listening to Byram Som doing old Phillies games.
Yeah.
This is probably out in San Francisco, maybe at Old Candlestick Park. And I was about 10. And I said, I want to be a play-by-play guy. And from that moment on, I just decided that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a play-by-play guy. I wanted to describe a lot of different sports on the radio. And I've been very, very blessed that 10 years later, at the age of 20, I started doing it. So out in some small little town in Illinois and then eventually to West Texas. But, I had to pay a lot of dues early in the career. That's the way it works. But I'm very fortunate to have been able to, take that step and have a career now that's lasted 42 years.
So other than the legendary By Som, who, for people that don't know, was also the Philadelphia Phillies announcer, way back when. I forget what year he broke into the business, but was there something, Bill, other than just being 10 years old and hearing a broadcast, was there something in your upbringing that you knew at 10 years old that this is what I wanted to do, and there was nothing else competing for your heart, let's say?
I remember in 4th grade, I did a special report for a teacher. And at the end of the report, I started sounding like one of those guys on ABC News, Peter Jennings or whatever. And I said, well, this is coming natural to me, writing. writing has always been a part of what I
Really?
do. And of course, later on, I started writing songs and writing a lot of different things. I just wrote a book, so I'll talk about that later.
Yep.
But so I think writing was part of what I really had a passion for, even though I knew at the age of 10 I wanted to be on the radio. So I think that was all kind of interconnected. So I took a lot of writing classes in high school. Went to West Catholic High School in West Philadelphia, and I think just everything it was a perfect storm for me. I love sports, I love writing, I love talking. And so all those things kind of fit for me. And this is the career I was supposed to have, so it's worked out pretty well.
So when you started your writing, was there any specific topics you were getting into? And what was your first or 2 or 3 gigs here, I guess, in the city of Philadelphia, or did you get a gig somewhere else?
No, in small market radio, you got to work your way up, right? So you don't start in Philadelphia. So I learned that right away. And I went to American Academy of Broadcasting, which is now defunct. It was down at 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly, Center City. And a guy named Long John Wade actually owned that place. And he's a long time, Bella, long before your time, but he was a disc jockey. He was a disc jockey, I think, at WIBG or WFIL.
Oh, my gosh.
And he started a broadcasting school. It only lasted a few years, but it was good for me because I had gone to Temple and really didn't like it because I wanted to get involved in the newspaper or the radio station. And there was really no room for a freshman to do that. And I was really anxious to kind of get a hands-on experience. So I transferred to the broadcasting school. And as soon as I graduated, I got a job in Illinois. So it worked out that way because I knew I was going to have to start in small markets. The town was 6,300 people. There were more people on my street, I think, than that town. And of course, it was in the middle of Corn County, USA. It's all corn and cows. And it was quite a culture shock for an inner city kid to move out to the Midwest, for sure.
Bella, I guess you don't even remember WFIL and WIBG. High lit. No. It was a while ago. So you're going to have to do some homework, okay? To see what radio was really like. It was called Wibbage and Wiffle, right? Right, Bill?
That's it. That's exactly right. Wibbage. In fact, my broadcasting school teacher, Fast Eddie Coyle, was on WFIL. And Fast Eddie was a great guy. He's still on radio, believe it or not, down in Florida. And he's in his probably late 60s, early 70s now, but he's still spinning the hits, still doing the top 40 stuff.
Did you ever think of a career in music, or was it always sports?
That was my backup plan. If I didn't make it as a sportscaster, I would have been a disc jockey, I think. So, because I always loved music, and music was a big part of my life, but sports first, music second.
So you never even had a chance really to go into music because not to say your career took off right away. As you said, you had to pay your dues at a young age, and you couldn't get the big gigs, but you never really went to spinning records, as we call it back then. It's a little different now. So you've really been in the sports business, and you really haven't had to go into anything. Everything seemed to move you in one direction. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but Chuck, in small market radio, you got to do a lot of different things. You just don't do sports. You do news, you spin records, you maybe open the station up at 9 in the morning or 6 in the morning. And so all those different things in small market radio, we work a lot of hours, for a little pay. But it was okay because it was what I wanted to do. I had a passion for it. So I never felt like I was paying dues. I just felt like I was taking that next step to where I was going. And I was fortunate enough because when I was out in KPET in Lamesa, Texas, Chuck, you have any idea where Lamesa is?
I do actually, because I was scouting with the Angels at the time, and I can't remember where it's at, but I've heard of it. It's like Armadillo.
Yeah. You're thinking of Amarillo, not Armadillo.
That's what I said. Yeah, I remember those days, and I didn't want to revisit them too often because they were like the beginning banger pains, if you will. So.
There you go. It's part of the deal, isn't it? But no, Lamesa is 60 miles south of Lubbock, where Texas Tech is. And but the station, it was a gold mine for me because they were really committed to sports. So I did play-by-play of high school football, basketball, baseball. During the summer, we did the Babe Ruth League team. We did little dribblers for a while, these little 8 to 10-year-old snot-nosed kids running around. more turnovers than baskets. And I'm trying to describe this, but I was getting $10 a game. So it was okay. I was making money. I was making a whole $10 to describe these little kids running around.
Now, so, this is down in Texas, right?
Yeah, in Lamesa, Texas. Yeah. So anyway, after 3 years there of doing all that stuff, and I did spin some country records, by the way.
Did you really?
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny because growing up with Philly soul and Springsteen, I really didn't think that country music was something I would get into, but I actually did. And I just read an autobiography by Waylon Jennings who's originally from West Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of love that stuff. I'm going to a country music show tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. Not that I'm all country. I love all kinds of music. In fact, one of my best friends is there in Philly. He's a singer-songwriter named Ken Queter, who's really one of my best friends. And I learned a lot from him, a lot of melodies from him and that sort of thing. But so after 3 years in La Mesa, I was fortunate enough to get a college job, and that was at Sam Houston State, which is in East Texas. Very good football program there. In fact, they're ranked number 1 right now in the country at their level, the football championship series. But I was there for 6 years, did football and basketball, a little bit of baseball. And then fortunately, right after that, I got the job at the University of Texas in Austin.
Yeah, you had mentioned Texas Tech, and I was going to say, weren't you a broadcaster with the Longhorns?
Yes, I was the voice of the Longhorns for 12 years. 12 years in baseball, 9 years in football and basketball. But I was on the network for full 12 years doing color for football and basketball first few years, and then off to play-by-play.
Did you have a specific sport? I know in the early years you didn't have a choice. You were doing a number of things. You seem to have gravitated toward basketball, though. Like that seems to be the gig.
Basketball is where the opportunity was, Chuck. It's just like people say, well, how'd you end up in Texas? Well, yeah, in this business, you go where the opportunity is. And I was fortunate enough to, keep moving up, high school, small college, major college, the pros. So I was fortunate in that regard. But I didn't really have an idea. When I was doing the Longhorns, I was doing football, basketball, and baseball, and I wasn't sending resumes out. I was real happy. As the voice of the Texas Longhorns, I covered a Heisman Trophy winner and Ricky Williams. Basketball was really starting to come on. We had Tom Penders as the coach, and then Rick Barnes. So basketball was good. Baseball's always been great at Texas. 3 times I got to cover the College World Series up in Omaha. In fact, Texas gets to the Omaha, Nebraska College World Series so often that they had T-shirts made up said the University of Texas at Omaha. So
it's great.
So we it's been a fun ride.
When you're doing your broadcasting, was there and what we try to do on this show, and we talk about a heart of a champion, and you obviously have a heart of a champion because of what you do in your life, but you started with humbling beginnings, as they would say. Was there a mentor in your life or an experience that made a difference from you? It doesn't seem like you were giving a lot of alternative, and maybe I'm wrong, but you kind of knew what you wanted to do. What was it? Just you, your heart, what you wanted to do, or was there, as you say, there's situations arise, but was there a mentor in your life that really supported you?
Not really. This was kind of a dream I had from the time I was 10, and then I decided at that time to try to work toward that goal. In other words, take writing classes in high school. Because I knew writing was going to be a part of what I was doing, and it has turned out to be that way because I write all my pregame intros and I have to write reports every day on the team. And so writing definitely is a big part of it. But I just was, I don't know if self-motivated is the word, but I was kind of determined to try to make this happen. I was very fortunate I guess it was right after my senior year of high school, I met the love of my life, Jerry. And she was from the neighborhood. She went to Penn. She was much smarter than me. I could have never gotten into the University of Pennsylvania. And she stayed with me. She left the University of Pennsylvania to go with me in my $150 a week radio job in the middle of nowhere in Illinois. And she's been with me now for 42 years. So she's not my inspiration as far as my career is concerned, but she's been able to take care of all the other things, take care of the kids, take care of the bills, all that stuff. And that has allowed me to pretty much have the freedom to, run around the country and describe sporting events.
Bella, did you similar experience to what Bill has gone through as far as didn't seem like he just kind of seemed to know what he wanted to do. Did you find the same thing?
For myself? Yeah. Growing up, I have a background in music and entertainment. So when you're talking about music, I'm sitting here and loving it. And it makes sense to me of why you would like country music, especially with you loving writing so much, because they truly are storytellers. Like country music artists, I give them all the props in the world for that. But for me, growing up in music and entertainment, I loved that side of the business. And I realized that it was one of those things that you could take that model and apply it to different, industries. So I grew up, loved sports, was going to sporting games since I was a kid, always a big hockey girl. Chuck knows, everybody kind of gets on me about it. I got all my jerseys behind me. So I decided when I got older that I wanted to go back to school so that I could branch into sports myself and get into the business aspects of it. So yeah, there was a bit of an influence with my parents of what they were already doing. And then I kind of just took my own little interest and tried to apply it over there,
Bill, what Bella said, everyone goes in a direction for some reason, okay? And whether you we used to call it the baseball gods and baseball, I'm sure there's basketball gods and things like that. There's broadcasting gods. What do you think happened in your life? Like it doesn't even seem you blinked an eye for that. There was nothing even competing for what you wanted to do. You just knew. What do you think the reason for that is and why so many people are still looking? I'm 61, still looking, just so you know. I'm looking. How do you know?
Because you're waiting to grow up.
I'm a Pollyanna. I've done a number of
Well,
neat things, not just one. But yeah, Bill.
Well, that's great, Chuck. It's good to be a Renaissance man.
Is that what it is? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Well, whatever. I think that the word that I like to use is passion. I talk to students all the time, and I remember talking to a group of college students one time, and I can tell maybe about 4 or 5 people in the entire class were really listening, that really wanted to kind of understand where I was coming from and what I was saying about passion, because so many people kind of go through life just whatever, I'll get a job at the office, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But for me, I wouldn't have been happy working a 9-to-5 job. It just wouldn't have been me. So I think that might have been part of my inspiration, is that I just knew that I wanted to do this. And it's funny because I never thought at all about any kind of celebrity part of it. In fact, if I wanted to do TV, maybe I would have done TV. I probably would have got a better haircut. But I think that
it looks good to me, Bill.
My hair's a mess.
You're fine. You're fine.
I was going to say, you got a good little flip going on.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know what it is. I couldn't find my mousse. I was trying to get technically set up. It was terrible. But anyway, but the funny thing is I don't worry about any of that. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I never thought about that celebrity part of it. And so I just wanted to do basically what I'm doing, and describing games on the radio comes naturally to me. I've been doing it for such a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, early in my career, I had to do a lot of other things, but it never took me away from what I really, truly wanted to do. When I sit at either courtside, or now we're kind of elevated up in the concourse level, but when I put those headphones on and watch that game, then I know for sure that that's where I need to be.
It honestly blows my mind. It blows my mind how you can sit and watch and interpret and actually describe what's going on in real time. Your brain must move at 1,000 miles a minute.
I try the best I can, but it's good to be organized. It's good to have a cup of tea, because that's the caffeine that I need during the course of the game. The most challenging part lately has been the foreign players that have come in. For instance, we played Milwaukee the other night. They had a player from the Republic of Georgia, and his name was Sandro Mamakilashvili. So,
wow.
You can say Mamakilashvili. It's not that difficult, but when you're going 100 miles an hour,
you can.
And his teammates,
we can't.
Yeah, and his teammates are Thanasis and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Then you got a
challenge
going on.
Shut up.
So, in fact, Chuck, I just wrote a song called "Ballers from Istanbul," and it was about my challenge. It was my challenge to get all the names correct, because there are players from Serbia and Croatia and Turkey playing on this team. And Nemanja Bjelica and Lakis Mavrakafalidis and all these guys. It's like, okay,
all right, you're just showing off now, Bill.
I would pay $5 for a Smith or a Jones at that point. I really would. But there were no Smiths, no Jones, so you had to learn how to say Mele Mamatulu.
It brought something to mind. I interviewed Lou Nolan. Lou Nolan is the Philadelphia Flyers PA announcer.
I know him very well, Chuck. He went to the same high school.
Did he really?
Yeah, West Catholic High. Yep.
How about that?
Get out.
We talked about one of his embarrassing memory was he had to do the Olympics, and it was the Chinese national team, and apparently, and whether way they list the names, he was getting all these looks, at him, because apparently they put the last name first, and he was saying them backwards. And he said that was the most embarrassing moment till he realized, because he's such a student of the game, the Russians come in and play, and the Czechoslovakians, and we got to get the names right. And it was funny. Do you have a kind of light moment in broadcasting that you've experienced similar?
Oh, wow. Well, my first college basketball broadcast at Sam Houston State, they played the Bulgarian national team. And I spent at least a week going over that roster. And I would go to people around the station, and they thought I was kind of crazy, Am I saying this right? Well, how do I know? Lubomir Amyorkov. Lubomir Amiotikov. So I would just drive people crazy because it was my first college basketball broadcast. I wanted to get the names right, so I was bouncing these names off everybody. So I went to a reunion about 3 months ago, and everybody was saying, "Did you ever get those Bulgarian names right back in 1983?" I said, "Yeah, I think I got it right." I remember the names too. Georgi Gluchkov and Lubomir Amiotikov. How can you forget those names?
Was this a play-by-play on the court, or were you broadcasting somewhere?
I was broadcasting the game. It was my first college basketball broadcast.
Wow!
It was an exhibition game, yeah. And a packed house there in Huntsville. Like 6,000 people were at the game. I just wanted to make sure that I got the names right.
And would they really know if you got them wrong, other than the players?
Of course not.
Yeah. When you talk about your career, and we were with Bella chiming in about what she's learned, what advice would you give? Because you talked about you just knew your passion, and before we get to the advice to someone, you don't mention money at all, and in this environment that we're in today, money plays a really big part in all this. Can you give me your thoughts on that? Where you were in your life back then, obviously different than today. Can you give us your thoughts when we talk about heart of a champion? My idea of a heart of a champion is you just know what you want and you go after it no matter what is happening. But money plays a part, right? Whether it be when you were starting out or the multi-billion-dollar players we have today.
Mm-hmm. I think part of it was growing up in very humble beginnings. I grew up in a row home. My dad was a bartender. My mom was a housewife. We didn't have a lot of money. So I don't think that I ever felt like I lacked anything at all. I never went hungry or anything like that. But being from the inner city and that kind of toughness that you have, like, growing up in the hood, I think that really helped me because I didn't need to get a big salary, and I wasn't going to get one in Dana, Illinois. But the funny thing is, I was making $150 a week, but my rent was $140 a month. So I kind of, okay, as long as there's food on the table, I can pay the bills that I need to pay. I'll get better. I'll do this, and then I'll get to the next job, maybe make a little bit more money. But money was never a driving force for me. In fact, I remember meeting a young singer in Asbury Park, New Jersey, named Bruce Springsteen before he made it big. This is a true story. And Stone Pony is in Asbury Park, and I went to see Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jews.
Yeah, remember him.
And Bruce was kind of hanging out. Now, remember, Bruce's first 2 albums on Columbia didn't do very well. He didn't really make it big till the 3rd album, which is Born to Run. So this was, I guess, right around the time he was getting ready to record Born to Run. And I asked him stupidly, "Hey, you making any money yet, Bruce?" And he told me, he said, making money is not making it. Doing what you love doing is making it. So he said, if you want to be a sportscaster, go be a sportscaster and don't worry about the money. Just go ahead and work on your craft. And that's exactly what I did. And believe me, first 10 years of my career, I had to go back to that conversation with Bruce to remember what he told me about making money. Ironically enough, about 5 months later, he's on the cover of Time and Newsweek the same week. And he's a big making of a rock star picture on the cover of Time and Newsweek. And it's like, all right, this guy was just hanging out at the bar in Asbury Park, and now he's on the cover of Time and Newsweek, and he's got a monster smash hit and Born to Run.
That's like, I'm looking at Bella's face, and he's like, hashtag truth bomb, right? Truth bomb, right? But it's a big deal today, right, Bill? In today's economic, whatever you want to call it, the athletes that are so gifted, and I got to say, from the time we played, these athletes are so much bigger and faster. As much as we were. Our hearts were in it, and maybe what do they grapple with today? And do you think that coming from humble beginnings makes you hunger, or you just don't even think about the financial part and the trophy part?
I never thought about trophies or awards or financial part of it. A lot of that happened to come to me, which was fine, and I appreciated it. You mentioned the fact at the beginning of the show that I won the 2014 Texas Sportscaster of the Year Award, which is great because there's so many sportscasters in Texas. But the thing that meant the most to me was that it came from my peers, that they recognized my work. Now, that was when the year when the Spurs won the championship. So if I was the voice of a team that won 20 games that year, I probably wouldn't have won Sportscaster of the Year. So I never worry about awards because they come and go. But showing up for work every day, being ready and prepared for each broadcast, that's what drives me. And the fact that there's been better financial compensation in recent years, that helps, certainly. You're in the NBA. And I don't worry about what the players make because, they're on a whole different scale than the broadcasters are. So I never compare myself to a player. But I just try to make myself learn every day. I think that that's something that's difficult maybe for some of us who are in our 60s now, that we can still learn things. There's a lot to learn, obviously, in a lot of different areas. And I think that that's the motivating force for me right now is trying to learn a few things here and there and try to get better. I listen to myself. I self-critique. I listen to other guys. Hey, that's an interesting way to say that particular kind of play. So I think you can always learn. You can always get better. You can always improve. And it's just a matter of, sitting down and doing it and not resting on your laurels, so to speak.
Yeah. Who were, as you were in this field, did you have other broadcasters that you modeled yourself after, or were you a maverick? You just, not to mention the Mavericks, I'm not, but were you a maverick in the way you present and said, listen, I'm Bill Schoening, I'm going to do what I got to do, but hey, I really like the way Vin Scully does this, or whoever. Were you?
Oh, sure. And it's funny, early in my career, listening to Byram Som and Harry Callis and Bill Campbell, all those guys from Philly, and that was really inspiring for me, but I never tried to sound like anybody. If I wanted to sound like Harry Carey, I can do a great Harry Carey impersonation if I have a couple of beers in me. I don't even drink beer, but yeah. So, how come a guy from Mexico throws the ball in the sun? So, growing up listening to
it is Harry Callis. He's joining us again.
And that was Harry Carey.
Harry. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Harry Carey.
Now, here's a good story for you. I called from East Texas. I was living in Huntsville to. There was a Harry Callis sound-alike contest on WCAU. Steve Frederick was the host of the show.
Yeah.
And I was one of the 5 finalists on the Harry Callis sound-alike contest. So I flew to Philly from Huntsville, Texas, and in between games of an old twilight doubleheader with the Pittsburgh Pirates, I got on the field and did my Harry Callis impersonation, and I finished. And the problem was they put Bill Schoening, Huntsville, Texas up there. And, of course, these people are booing me, and because I grew up here. I'm from here. I've been in these stands just like you have, I've suffered through these bad teams just like you have. But anyway, the funny thing is Scott Graham won it that night.
Yeah, I remember.
Scott Graham. So if I'm going to lose to somebody, might as well be the voice of NFL films, right? I think Scott was a student at Penn at the time. So we were all very young at the time. It was 1985, I believe. So, but Harry's wife at the time, his first wife, I guess, came up to me after this whole deal, and I didn't finish first. I think I finished second or third. It didn't matter. Scott Graham won. But she said, hey, just for what it's worth, I think your impersonation was the best. So if anybody knew what Harry sounded like, it was his wife. And so that was a good consolation.
Was that Harry Carey or Harry Callis now?
That was Harry Callis. High tower drive, right?
Michael Jack. I got it. Yeah.
Michael Jack Schmidt. Yeah, that one.
Bella, do you remember Harry Callis?
No, it's
a good thing. Maybe him and Richie Ashburn in the booth. They were quite a pair.
Richie Ashburn.
Oh, you remember Richie Ashburn? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you don't remember Byram Som. Byram Som used to sing song as play-by-play. Good afternoon, my Som. This is everybody.
Well, it's funny, Bill.
I would always make the mistake of adding the wrong interjection. Like he'd say one time, he said, coming to the plate right now for the Mets is Felix Millan. He's the second baseman. He's a Puerto Rican, but he's a good hitter. Does that mean Puerto Ricans can't hit? What are you saying, Harry? What are you saying, Ty? What's going on here?
Oh my! I remember Harry. Now you had a row house. I had a row house in Northeast Philly. So we're about the same age. We're probably growing up around the same time. And when they say that the Phillies could rally, I'm like, the Phillies don't rally. What are you out of your mind? But I remember what I remember is going. We would coming back from whatever skating. Going swimming, whatever, and the Phillies would be on. And back in the day, you had the little transistor radio. You didn't have,
Sure.
And you would pick up the game coming down your street, and then you would lose the sound of the game, and then maybe 6 doors down, somebody else had the game on, and you would pick up the and you would just get inundated because that was lifestyle, right? But I mean, were they better days?
Well, they're golden days for us, and it's so funny because. Young folks don't quite get what the whole deal was back then. People sitting on their steps listening to the ball game. That was part of the deal.
Yeah. And
I remember, talking about these early days. I was about 10 or 11 when I first decided I wanted to do this, and my mom cashed in. Get this, Chuck, some S&H green stamps.
Oh,
okay.
With the Dino dinosaur.
Yeah, I am so old, I'll tell you. But she cashed in the S&H green stamps that went up to Upper Darby on 69th Street and got a. imitating everybody, imitating the neighbors, turning down the TV, turning down Tony Kubek and Kurt Gowdy on the NBC game of the week to do my own version of the Yankees and the Red Sox. So that's the kind of kid I was. And the funny thing is, I wasn't really a nerdy kid, even though I was pretty good in school. I was a little bit of a class clown, but I was real serious about this. This stuff I took seriously. So that's why I had that Panasonic tape recorder everywhere I went. Yeah, I recorded everything and just try. I remember we had a street hockey team. I didn't play hockey, but my friends did. And I went down there to the street hockey game and called the guy. There was a street called Geyer Avenue, and they called themselves the Geyer Flyers. So roller hockey. So I would go down to their games and I would try to describe the game in my Panasonic tape recorder. So that's
oh my gosh, that they are the days. Bella, do you have anything of these experiences that you at a young age have experienced? The things that you're going through. Anything rings a bell to hear about where guys like our age came from? I mean, is it kind of like a kind of a beautiful moment back then, or are you just happy with the technology now?
So I am horrible with technology.
Oh, okay.
I can barely use my phone. I hate social media. As you know, I'm not on Facebook.
Yeah.
So for me,
Meta. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up, my dad was 50 when I was born. So for me,
Wow.
My dad was 50. I grew up kind of like in a really different way than a lot of my friends. My two older brothers were 15 and 18, 19 years older than I was. So I grew up on like Motown.
Well, wait a minute
Waters,
now.
Etta James.
Yeah.
I grew up on people that nobody knew. I didn't even know who like Britney Spears was until I was 12 when I was in middle school, and people were like, "Don't you know this?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Where's like Pearl Jam and Chris Cornell?" I'm like, "Why aren't we listening to this?" Like, I grew up in kind of that different way. I grew up with a record player. I still have a record player. So for me, I think there's such a romanticism to the technology from then that I think I'm still attached to, because I think it has more personality than the coldness of what we have now.
Bill,
everything's just so accessible.
Bill, do you agree with that? The technology has kind of gotten in front of maybe some other things.
Oh, absolutely. We were just talking about Zoom earlier, and I miss one-on-ones. I miss just talking to somebody in person. Now, of course, COVID's had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
And it's good that we have this technology. I'm not anti-technology, but sometimes it's much easier to text somebody than it is to pick up the phone and call them, or at least we think it is. And I prefer to talk. I know many times some of my friends are upset. Like we have 2 or 3 texts. If I'm going to do a 2 or 3 sentence text, I'm going to pick up the phone and talk to you, because I'm a broadcaster and I'd rather talk. Even if it's a 2-minute conversation, I'd rather have that connection than just texting somebody for 5 minutes.
Yep.
If obviously I think you would agree, you have a great job right now and you love what you do. Was there something else that if it came along that you would jump at, or are you pretty satisfied where you're? I know you're satisfied where you're at, but would there be something else that's in your mind that you would jump to?
Well, Chuck, it's funny because I'm closer to the end than the beginning of this thing. I'm 63 years old now, and I keep thinking that I'm not going to be like Al McCoy. You probably don't know who Al McCoy is, but he's the voice of the Phoenix Suns and a friend of mine, and a really, really good guy. But he's in his late 80s and he's still going, and that's great for him. But right. I don't think I'm going to be that old and still go with radio play-by-play. I mean, I love doing what I'm doing. I'm very fortunate to have the job I have. But I think down the line, maybe 4 or 5 years, who knows? I'm not sure what's going to happen, but maybe I'd like to get into doing something different. I'm not quite sure what that is right now. I love writing music. I like writing overall. I just finished a kind of an autobiographical book, stories of my life, and I really enjoyed that whole process. The book will be out in February, hopefully, and maybe Chuck can give me a little plug when I'm getting ready to push the book a little bit, but because there's a lot of Philly stories in the book, obviously growing up in Philadelphia and the impact that had on me. But I have a lot of other interests. I love to hike. I love the national parks. My wife and I have been to 25 national parks. Love traveling. Love traveling. Been to Europe. I love the States. I've been to all 50 states. By the way, if you ever get a chance, Montana is my favorite state. It's just good.
Really?
Go in the summertime. Don't go in the winter. But
Bill, hold
Montana,
that thought.
Wyoming, all those states out west are so pretty, and I just love traveling out there. So I'm not sure what's in store for my future. But to answer your question, I guess I'm going to do this for a few more years, hopefully. But then maybe there'll be something else down the line, a little, separate from basketball.
Yeah, Bill, can you hold with us for a little bit longer? I blew through our hard out break, and we got to go there now. And so let's do that, and then we'll be back on the air with Bella, my co-host, and Bill Schoening. We'll be right back.
Quakertown Farmers Market, bargains are our business.
Quakertown Farmers Market and Flea Market, now even fresher with new ownership committed to the same service and value generations of shoppers have enjoyed. We strive to offer more value for your buck. Quakertown Farmers Market, open year-round, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Check out our bargains and specials on the web at itsfresherhere.com or like us on Facebook.
And we are back live with Chuck Bushbeck and my co-host, Bella DiSilvestro. Bill Schoening is our guest, broadcaster for the San Antonio Spurs. And we've really gotten away from San Antonio Spurs.
That's okay.
But that's the goal here, is to talk about Bill Schoening and what makes the heart of a champion, right? So you've got a lot of great stories to tell, and it's been so enjoyable. And that's why I got in trouble. I blew by the break. But anyway, I got scolded for that. Do you ever get scolded, Bill, for doing something maybe you shouldn't have, or you forgot to do, or are you just a perfectionist?
I went to 12 years of Catholic school. I had nuns for 8 years. What do you think? So
Yep.
Did you? Well, one of the stories in my book is about Sister Marina John, who we call Big Bad John. She threw an elbow at me one time. If she was playing in the NHL, she would have got 2 minutes for roughing and elbowing. So there's your hockey reference, Bella.
But thank you.
I couldn't figure out this math equation, and boom, the elbow in the back of the head. Oh God! And my nose hits the chalkboard. I'm trying to adjust my nose, make sure it's not broken, and I got tears coming out of my eyes. And I can't cry because I got 2 girls that I have a big crush on in the class. I can't cry in front of them. So
it's no crying in class. Grade. Yeah. Your stories are incredible, and I remember these days when we had Sister Mary Tank. She was a big woman, and other than the 12-inch ruler or the 18-inch ruler and tying quarters on the end of it, and we got hit in the back of the legs. She'd pull your sideburn up if you're a boy. I've never that really hurts. I don't know. I think the days of kneeling on rice and stuff like that was maybe Hollywood but that was real because I experienced it. So I understand your trauma that you went through, and it may have set your foot on fertile ground to move your career. But you mentioned Montana, and I had to cut you off a little bit. What is it about Montana that's so special?
Oh, just the overall beauty. When you grow up in the inner city, I don't know that you can completely appreciate wide open spaces because everything's so tight. There's so many people in a congested area. And I was very fortunate my first year with the Spurs. One of the co-owners of the team invited me to her house, her and her husband out. And their house was on the Yellowstone River. They had 250 acres in southern Montana, just north of Yellowstone National Park, which is in Wyoming. So I flew to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and drove up through the Grand Tetons, through the Yellowstone, into Paradise Valley in southern Montana. And I just was hooked. This was like the most beautiful place I've ever been. And every chance I get now, I go back out. My wife and I, like I said, we like to visit national parks. So we hiked in Glacier National Park a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like 1 million acres of just, beauty, just wildlife and mountains and waterfalls and river streams and beautiful valleys. It's incredible. So it's my little escape place. It's one of the places I like to go, just kind of get away from everything in the summertime. And that's one of the reasons why I took the Spurs job in 2001. Like I said, I was very happy as the voice of the Texas Longhorns. But when the Spurs made me this offer, they told me I would have the entire summer off. So I went from having 2 or 3 weeks off to 4 or 5 months off. So
Yeah.
for the last 21 years, I've had summers off like a school teacher almost. So I've been able to take advantage of that and do quite a bit of traveling.
It's funny you mentioned Yellowstone. It's one of my favorite shows, actually. I don't know if you're aware of it, but that has the same renaissance to it, right? The other than the acting and the storyline, but the beautiful sights up there are incredible. What happens if the Wyoming Cowboys say, "Bill, we want you to do all our broadcasting games while you're on vacation"? Do you do it?
No. I enjoy getting away from. I love what I do. Don't get me wrong, but I also enjoy doing some other things. And I'm going to the studio next week to record Ballers from Istanbul, as a matter of fact, because I'm doing this book, and there's going to be an audio portion of the book, so I've got to read all my stories. But the cool thing about the audio portion of the book is that I can throw in some clips of play-by-play, like some of the championships of the Spurs have won since I've been there, and also these songs that I've written. So I'm not going to put them all in there. I think I've written 30 songs. I'm going to put like 12 or 13 in.
Well, I'm going to go to a video right now, and I want you to explain it to me when it's over. Good deal?
Okay.
Shoot it, Joe.
Smoking Joe, left hook he is throwing, climbing up the ranks to the title he is going.
Explain that to me, Bill.
It's Joe Frazier is one of my favorite people ever. He was a childhood hero of mine. He was the heavyweight champion of the world. He was from Philadelphia, PA. So I was very, very proud of Joe Frazier. About 3 or 4 years ago, a film producer by the name of Amy Louise Williams, we were friends on Facebook. I didn't really know Amy Louise, but she asked me if I would consider writing a song for her documentary. She was doing a documentary on the life of Joe Frazier. It was going to be called Joe Frazier, Champion Outside the Ring. So I started working on this song. Well, unfortunately, Amy Louise died as a result of a car accident in April of 19. And I had this song written. It wasn't produced or anything like that. It's just the early stage of the tune. And as a kind of a tribute to Amy Louise, I decided to go ahead and do the song anyway. The film probably won't get done. She had done a lot of work herself, but it looks like the film's not going to be done. But the song's done. So when I got the basic part of the song written, I took it to my producer, Nick Whitworth, who's a great guy. And we enlisted the help of a 3-time Grammy winner who plays the horn on that song. His name is Fletch Wiley. And Fletch kind of brought a new level to the song. So we've really had a lot of fun with that. It's kind of a funky, I wanted a gritty 70s funky Philly thing.
That's it.
And that's pretty much what we got. I think we captured it. Yep.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
I think Bella's resonating with our era more than anyone right now. I mean, she's in love with it was a romantic time in life.
When Bella explained that her dad was 50 when she was born,
I
think that maybe is why you have a little of that old school in you, right?
I'm truly 87 in my head. I get up, everything cracks. I'm like, it's just my age.
Oh,
serious.
Please. Is that a glass of wine you got working on there, Bella?
Water.
Oh, okay.
Nice try, Bill. But
not this early.
I know this guy Jesus. He can change that water.
Yeah,
to wine.
well, oh my gosh. Anyway,
maybe in another hour.
Listen, I want to, I don't want to give too much away, but your book's coming out next year. Can you give us a teaser? Can you tell us what's happening?
Yeah, instead of writing an autobiography, I wanted to write stories about my life. So I wanted to start at the very beginning from my earliest childhood memories and then just tell stories because that's what I like to do. So there's 101 stories. I could have probably did 200, but I did 101. A lot of it's sports related, obviously. Some of it's travel related. Some of it's about my family, my faith, a little bit of everything, So some of the stories are very humorous. Some are very serious. I did a prison ministry a few years ago where I spent, in fact, I spent 2 different separate weekends, 4-day weekends at a maximum security prison in Texas. And the conditions that I saw there were appalling. Mm-hmm. So I write about that a little bit. And so it's just little stories about my career. When you work in small market radio, a lot of different things happen. I did a game one time because we couldn't find a phone line at the gym. I did it from the janitor's closet. I actually broadcast a game from a janitor's
No, you didn't.
closet.
Stop it.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of little stories like that. One time we were doing a football game out in West Texas, and the line that had been installed was now Chuck, I know you remember party lines, right?
I
Where
do.
they were cheaper to install because different people would be on the line.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, at Sweetwater High School in West Texas, they had a party line. So I'm in the middle of describing a 3rd and 8 from the 28-yard line, and this lady gets on the phone, and she's on the air. I want to call my sister Agnes. This is Lamesa Golden Tornado football. It's 3rd and 8 at the 24-yard. I don't care about the game. I want to call my sister Agnes. So, so I pitch a break. We go to break. I tell the producer back at the station to hang up and reconnect. So that worked. We didn't hear from the lady or her sister Agnes again. But now every time I'm on the air, even doing a Spurs game, if I hear a click on the line, I'm expecting to hear this lady come on the phone looking for Agnes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Bella, we had party lines, and someone would come on and say, "We're out of potatoes and meatloaf," and I'm in a conversation with someone else. But that was the bygone era, right, Belle? So here's my question to you. You mentioned storytelling, and believe it or not, I'm putting together now a one-man piece that I'm going to do about storytelling, and some different things, some specifics. What make and this is a little off track, but being we went there, let's do it because it's all about educating people too. What do you know about storytelling? What are the key elements in storytelling?
I think when you tell a story, first of all, it's got to be real. I at least in my book, it is. Obviously there's a lot of fictional stories too, but I've got a great love for history. So I love the fact that things can be accurate. I get so mad sometimes when I watch a film and some of the things have been changed because if it's a good story, you don't need to change it, right? I mean, you might want to enhance a character or two here and put a Hollywood thing there, but I prefer the real thing. So I prefer humorous stories because I think that if you look at things in a light where you can find some humor out of it, that's good. Not everything is humorous, obviously. There's some sad stories out there as well. But I think that you have to have a hook to, it's like writing a song. I really try to spend a lot of time on my chorus when I write a song because that's where the hook is. So if you can hook somebody with an interest in what you're interested in, if you have, and I use the word passion a lot, but if you really have a passion for a topic and you can make that interesting to somebody else. One of the people that's editing my book right now, her name is Nika, and she wrote me a real nice note saying, I'm not a sports fan. I don't like sports, but I liked your book because it made me interested in things that I didn't think I was interested in. So I think that might be a good hook for storytelling. If you got somebody that is interested in something that might not have been something that was on their radar before.
I think that's fabulous when you can take someone who's not really interested in a so-called topic and get them interested just because of the way you tell the story. I think that's a phenomenal thing to do. And I congratulate because I can't wait for this book to come out. I want a signed copy. Obviously, Bella would probably like a signed copy.
I want the audio copy because I want to hear the songs.
Well,
I'm really interested in Ballers in Istanbul.
Well, this is funny because when I wrote Ballers from Istanbul, for some reason I wrote it with a reggae beat. I've never written a reggae song before. I don't even listen to reggae that much, but it just the way that the song kind of flowed. So my producer, Nick's a real enthusiastic type producer. So he's already lined up like a steel drum and we got a sax in there and, we're going to dress it up. I mean, I wrote it like on a guitar on an iPhone, but now we're going to go in there and really dress it up and bring in some top-notch musicians and just have some fun with it. And that's the other thing. It's like, I've never really made a lot of money on my music and that's not what it's about. It's just about creating something and working with other musicians to kind of create something from nothing. The same thing with Smoke and Joe. And so we're going to do that same thing with Ballers from Istanbul. There's another song on there called Tears at Epinal, and it's a sad song. It's about my father's brother who got killed in France during World War II. And no one in our family had ever been to his grave in Epinal, France. And 2013, I got a chance to go. And I went with my sister, and I couldn't believe how emotional I got at the grave of my uncle's, my father's younger brother. He died at the age of 19. And there's a field there with 5,000 guys, 5,000 Americans who never made it home. And the name of the song is Tears at Epinal. And I didn't expect to have that kind of emotion when I got there, but I did. And so the same thing. It's like, you think about something that you might not be interested in, but then you realize there's a story here and it could touch somebody. And that song has touched some people. I always post it on my Facebook page on Memorial Day and also on the date of his death, January 19th. He got killed January 19th, 1945.
No.
Before we let you go, Bill, and you've been absolutely fabulous, and that's why you're on the show, Heart of a Champion, because you certainly do have that heart that we're looking for in anything you accomplish in life. But the viewers that watch this, what advice, whether it be young kids, middle age, our age, what advice would you give them, whether it be in broadcasting or anything else? I mean, acting or being a lawyer, whatever. What would be your 1 to 3 pieces of information you want them to know?
Well, first of all, find out what you really like, what you're really into, what you want to do. Because, like I said, there's people that don't really discover that ever. So, and some people get it late, and I got it very early. I was 10 years old. I knew what I wanted to do. The other thing is to treat people right. I mean, because it's so funny. I see people in this business that sometimes forget the people that they worked with when they were young or whatever. I never do that. I remember everybody I worked with. I enjoy interns that I had that are now successful in the business. That means a lot to me to see these guys have success and to see them put in the work. One of my interns, John Madani, is now one of the top producers at ESPN. And I'm real proud of him. And because he put the work in. And he always says that, I was a mentor and, I was a guy that gave him a lot of encouragement. And I did. But it was him doing it. So it's like a proud papa moment, right? My son, Carl, is working at an all sports radio station in San Antonio, and he's doing well. He does play-by-play. So it's good to see these young people. And I always encourage young people. I think that that's where the future is, obviously. But the number one thing I tell them is to find your passion, to find out what you really want to do in life. And therefore, you can go after it because that is the goal. And try not to get sidetracked. And again, treat people right. Remember the people that you worked with early in your career, because you may one day get a phone call and say, hey, there's an opening here, and I think you'd be good for that. It's happened to me 2 or 3 times in my career where I kept in touch with people that I worked with, and then they let me know about an opportunity that I followed up on.
Wow. Just a handful of great advice. Bella, we're done? Got it all?
Yeah.
Good to go?
I'm ready to just go out and conquer the world now. I'm like, after that.
Bill Schoening has that effect on you, doesn't he? Bill, you do come across that way. Let me tell you, it's been fabulous having you. And I'm so thankful that you hooked up with today. And go Spurs, unless they're playing the Sixers. We're going to have it.
Yep.
Well, I always tell people I pull for the Sixers 80 times a year. And there's two games I don't. Yeah, because I know where that paycheck's coming from. So
That's right. That's right. After we just talked about money not being an issue, we know where the paycheck's coming from. I love it.
Well, that's a little different,
I know.
When the bread's being put on the table, go Sixers 80 times a year. Those 2 games, I got to pull for the other team. Sorry.
That's fine. Bill, thank you so much for being on the show. Heart of a Champion, Chuck Bushbeck Live. And that'll do it for today. I would like to thank my guest, Bill Schoening, for coming on the show. For my producer, Joe Lee, next to me here, who you never see on camera. My executive producers, Jim Sims, CJ DeRoma. For Bella DiSilvestro, my co-host, you look great, Bella, from your appointment today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for watching Chuck Bushbeck Live, Heart of a Champion. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page and consider supporting us on Patreon at the link in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time. Have a great one, everybody. Thank you, Bill. We'll see you later.